Wow, guys. Wow. We have reached a pretty serious turning point in the history of crypto. For the first time, maybe ever, because of what the SEC and the CFTC did yesterday, we can sort of not give a damn what Congress thinks and just sort of say later for a little while. If you feel like you've already done enough DCAing and you'd like to say later to these ultra low prices for a while, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. All right, welcome guys. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining. Let's see who's here. Pucky Hawk says, let's go. I am still not rich yet, but I am optimistic. Same, very optimistic. Omar Wright says, not rich yet. Let's fucking go. Same, let's fucking go. Hilldog, let's fucking go. Hilldog says, hell yeah. Jay Coco's here. Let's fucking go. Click the like. Thanks for saying that, Jay Coco. Appreciate it. That's right. They better cheer. AOS fam, let's go. Otis Frichov says, Truck Donald says, Timmy and AOS can't be the same person because they created me. I promise you we are not the same person. In fact, you guys all know that because we've done a live stream together. One of us would have to be a very good sort of ventriloquist to have pulled that off. This was sort of before that would have been easy to do with AI. But you could argue that one of us is AI maybe, but it'd be hard to argue that we're the same person. I can tell you I am not AI. I am not AI. And I don't believe Timmy is either. Jay Marie is here. Hello, everyone. I'm smoking weed. Let's go. Let's go, Jay Marie. Let's go. Rulo's here. Hola, Rulo. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Troll Toll is here. Hello. Thank you for joining. Brown Beardo's here. Great news. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Quonk's here. Let's go. Let's go. Finally made it to another live show, still delegating to AOS. John Polo's here. John, thanks for joining. Smashing the like and watching all 5 years. Let's fucking go. Thanks for joining, John Polo. D Not You says like smacked. Thank you for saying that. And for smacking it. So Rulo points out something very logical. That's what an AI would say. Good point. Good point. Well, whether you believe I'm an AI or a real person, we're doing this thing. We're doing it. So first, before we jump into this, I think people know what this is going to be about. This is our little astronaut friend who represents all of crypto, but especially us in the Army of Spies, saying peace to Congress. Congress was very, very important to us for quite a while. And in this shot, he's just kind of saying peace to Congress. So before we hit all this, before we go to this part, let's just do a quick recap for anybody who missed it last night because of St. Patrick's Day. Last night, I unveiled this. This is the DApp I have been vibe coding since November. It's called Night Mode. It is a marketplace where AI agents or humans can hire other humans to do various things. Here are the types of things you can set up markets for. So on this site, you can set up markets of which you will be the sheriff. You'll be the first line of defense running your own market. You decide if something is illegal, you got to boot it from the market. So these are the kind of things. You could have anything, anybody, anywhere in the world. I consider this to be a tool for doing the, creating a level economic playing field for the world thing. You could give guitar lessons from Zambia. You could give Dutch kickboxing lessons from Amsterdam. You could give filmmaking classes from Da Nang. You could be an event caterer in Prague. You could be a human errand runner in Denver. Maybe you want to create, be a sheriff for electricians in Austin, Texas, mobile auto mechanics in San Diego. You could do any of these things. You could create any of these markets. You can be the sheriff. So here it is. Here's the website. Right now, these are just mock markets. If you missed last night, these are just mock markets. Soon, the smart contract is deployed on pre-prod, though. We're going to wire this up to the smart contract soon, and then you'll be able to interact with the smart contract through this front end. So let's see. This is not what we wanted here. Where is Where is my thread? Okay. So for the people, we're just going to do this really quickly and then we'll jump to the important stuff. Okay. So for the people who wanted to know how to hook their wallets up, I created this thread. So this is the official X account for night mode. Thank you very, very much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for the 45 people who followed this account. The account is Night Mode IO, Night Mode IO, at Night Mode IO. So if you haven't followed this account, please, if you want to do me a solid, please, 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 for the love of God, go follow this account. If you haven't, I will appreciate it so, so much. I've been watching the followers in the account. Every time it goes up, it makes me so happy. So if you've enjoyed these videos over the last, 816 videos over the last 5 years, please, for the love of God, go follow the account. I will appreciate it so, so much. So having begged you to follow the account, here's a thread I made. If you're having trouble creating a pre-prod midnight account in your wallet, I made you a little screenshotted step-by-step. It's right here on the night mode account. If you go to night mode, let's see, we'll just go straight to the account so you can see exactly how to find it. Here is the night mode account. If you go down here, it's the very first pinned thread. If you just go to the second post, it's going to start the step-by-step. Click here, click here, click here, click here, click here, click here, and then here, click here, and then click here. You also need to be on remote. Somebody was having trouble just a few minutes ago. They were on local. You should be on remote unless you're running your own local proof server. But I think most of you will choose remote here. Pre-prod, and then you can actually connect your wallet and do all that stuff on the site. So please, I'm very grateful for anybody who plays around on the site. So please do that too if you're interested at all. So having gotten through that, let's hit the comments before we get to the really interesting news, this big turning point in all of crypto. Rulo says, don't get me wrong, don't even know if I'm real. This is a good point. I think, given simulation theory, I used to reject all these kind of ideas when I was a young man. But then I read the Nick Bostrom simulation theory paper. Ever since I read that paper, I agree. I don't even know if I'm real. I don't know. Tricano says, I'm happy, I'm healthy, and I'm a human being. That's a quote this Scottish guy says in short clips on YouTube. Everyone thinks he is AI or a vampire. I don't know if I would prefer him to be AI or a vampire. If those are the two choices, I don't know which one is better or worse. I guess it depends on what kind of vampire, right? Obviously human is my top pick there, but Brown Beardo says, bad news, market dumps. Neutral news, market dumps. Great news, market dumps. What the heck positively animates the markets anymore? God knows. God knows. We're gonna cover all the news today, but definitely the markets did dump. I didn't watch news today, but if Congress is getting along about anything, we're all in danger. End of the world stuff. I mean, the news yesterday has to do with us not having to care about what Congress thinks for a little while, anyways. Jay Marie says, for the love of God, in a Chris Farley voice. I wish I could do a good Chris Farley impression. Those skits on Saturday Night Live, where he was like the motivational speaker who lived in the van down by the river, those were extremely, extremely popular when I was in high school. I don't know if you could have gone to high school for a day and not heard someone reference that in some way. Danil Wiggins has followed. Thank you, Danil. I appreciate that so much. I really appreciate it. Okay, guys, enough about night mode. If anybody has any questions about night mode, feel free to ask me. Night mode is a building in public project. So if you've got any observations, suggestions, questions, feel free to hit me up. If you have an observation, it's probably going to be valuable to me. So if you see anything, if you think there's something wrong, if you have a question, it's all probably valuable. So to me, so feel free to hit me with those. John Polo says, when did you meet Will Smith? I said over the weekend, you stupid bitch. Chris Farley voice. When did you meet Will Smith? That took me by surprise. Even as I was reading it, I didn't expect this "you stupid bitch" part, but that was pretty good. That took me by surprise, John. Good job. Okay. let's jump into the really big news. And this is a really big turning point in crypto, guys. When people were telling me about this yesterday during the live stream, was it the same? Okay, so John, so I figured that was that part of the same skits where he was the motivational speaker the parents would bring in to encourage their kids not to become like him because he lived in a van down by the river? Was it the same skit or was it a different one? Because I remember that sounds familiar, but it's so long ago now. Okay, the really big news. People were talking about this yesterday, and it was such big news. I was like, oh my God, of all the days I picked to not focus on the news and just focus on this project. Okay, John says, no, it was the news bit. Okay, nice. Nice. The news segments on SNL back in the day were pretty funny. I don't know how ScarJo's boyfriend is doing. I was forced to watch her Jurassic Park a couple days ago, and I even felt bad for her husband because he was married to the person who was in that show. That was truly a horrible Jurassic Park. Not that I'm not vouching for any of the rest of them except for number one, but even compared to the Chris Pratt ones, that was truly a horrible Jurassic Park. Apologies to any fans of that particular installment, but I even felt bad for her husband. I found myself thinking, like, I wonder if he's embarrassed every time somebody brings up that movie. So bad. So many bad things about it. Just all of it bad. Okay. Okay. This is the big news, and this is a hell of a news bit, guys. Okay, so this came out yesterday. This came out yesterday at about 2 p.m. and it's already gotten 2 million views for good fucking reason. This should have 20 million views. If there are 20 million, if there are, 22 million people in crypto, it should have 20 million views because it's literally the most important thing that's happened in crypto in a long time. So, U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission today, the commission issued an interpretation that clarifies the application of federal securities laws to crypto assets. This is a major step to provide greater clarity regarding the commission's treatment of crypto assets. Read the release here, and it's a hell of a release. So first of all, whenever the government does something, I always think to myself, why are they doing this? Because often why they're doing something is not exactly why they're saying they're doing it. So in this case, we know the White House. So first of all, understand that these executive agencies are executive agencies. The SEC, the CFTC, they're controlled by the executive branch. At the top of the executive branch is the White House. So when one of these agencies does something, it's at the will of the White House. So what we know is going on for all of 2025 and 2026, basically most of 2025 and all of 2026 so far, is that the White House hasn't been able to get its crypto legislation through Congress, right? They got the Genius Act through. That one was pretty easy. But the piece they need now is the Clarity Act. They haven't been able to get it through. Things ground to a halt. And everybody was like, what the hell is the White House going to do? Because they didn't seem to be making progress. It didn't seem like a compromise could be made between the Coinbases of the world and the JP Morgan Chases of the world, because they all decided this boiled down to stablecoin yield, which is not something that I think retail, all of us, cares about as much as Coinbase cares about or as much as JP Morgan cares about. I think the piece we really care about first is, we want stablecoin yield. I'd rather get my yield from Coinbase than from Jamie Dimon. But what we really care about is our goddamn bags being considered legal, right? I don't want there to be this question mark over my bag of ADA. Is this a compliant asset or a non-compliant asset? That's been the case for all of crypto. I mean, Satoshi was anonymous not because he didn't want credit for his giant innovation. I guarantee you, it's not that Satoshi was so humble. It's that there was a history of people going to jail in the US for inventing money. So whether you think Satoshi was Hal Finney or one of the other characters, what we can say is that Satoshi was anonymous because he didn't want to go to jail, right? And maybe when he died, maybe when he died, he he died happy knowing he didn't go to jail for inventing Bitcoin. But it wasn't because he was so humble, whoever it was because he didn't want to go to jail, right? And this question mark has been hanging over crypto the whole time because we've never gotten the green light. Like, hey guys, by the way, this is totally legal. Instead, what we got a Gensler SEC that was like, oh yeah, actually, Satoshi's instinct was correct. This has all been illegal the whole time. You guys have all been violating securities laws this entire time. Everybody who's ever issued a crypto asset, you're basically a big old violator, and we're going to try to do bad shit to you via enforcement actions. That's been the story of crypto so far. So Trump tried to put an end to all this. He made some campaign promises to all of us in crypto. Tried to put an end to all of it. Yep, Liberty Dollar. I believe Liberty Dollar was the name of one such project where the founder went to jail, right? You can correct me if I'm wrong, Hilldog, but I think that's the right name. I couldn't think of the name off the top of my head, but I think you're correct. Brian Austin is here. Brian Austin, thank you for joining. Good to see you. It's been a long time. Very good to see you, though. Thank you for joining. I think Liberty Dollar is the correct name of that project where a founder was actually like prosecuted. Yep, Hilldog says that's right. This was not that long before Satoshi's time. Satoshi, as a cypherpunk, obviously knew about the Liberty Dollar issue, did not want to fucking go to jail, and he probably would have. To be perfectly frank, Satoshi probably would have suffered the same fate as the Liberty Dollar guy. So this all changes as of yesterday in a very big way. So let's go directly to the release. So this is a commission interpretation. So Trump couldn't get the legislation through Congress that he wanted. This thing ground to a halt. They were kind of making threats to Jamie Dimon. Maybe Trump would personally sue JP Morgan Chase for debanking him, which seems to have happened as near as I can tell. I think that's all of our perception in crypto. That's exactly what happened. But he was threatening to sue Jamie Dimon, threatening to, implying that they'd be tough on Coinbase, all these things. They still couldn't get a compromise out of the two sides. So it looks like in the meantime, the White House has sort of given up on getting this legislation through Congress. They're like, you know what? We can just go ahead and do this by executive agency action, right? Not really action, but issuance of interpretation, right? If the SEC and the CFTC get together, and you can see there's quotes even in here from the CFTC chairman, Michael Selig, right here. With today's interpretation, the wait is over. Chairman Atkins and I are committed to fostering a regulatory environment that allows the crypto industry to flourish in the United States with clear and rational rules of the road. Paul Atkins, SEC chair, says a joint CFTC and SEC thing. It also acknowledges that the former administration refused to recognize that most crypto assets are not themselves securities. All of crypto yesterday has been transfixed by the last part of the sentence. Most crypto assets are not themselves securities. Gary Gensler would have told us the exact opposite. Bernard von Nothaus. Is this the guy's actual name? I can't remember the name, but it's not, I'm guessing you're saying that's the name of the Liberty Dollar guy. Did he actually do jail time? I probably haven't looked at this information since like literally 2013. Crypto's been transfixed by the last part of the sentence. Gary Gensler would have said the exact opposite. He would have said most crypto assets are securities. But Atkins is saying after more than a decade of uncertainty, this interpretation will provide market participants with a clear understanding of how the commission treats crypto assets under federal securities laws. This is what regulatory agencies are supposed to do, draw clear lines in clear terms. Thank you. For the love of God. Thank you, Chairman Atkins. Thank you, Chairman Selig. This is what we needed. This is great. So it's still possible. There is, Hilldog says yes and yes, prosecuted and did time. So this is great in the meantime, because the way this works is the SEC and the CFTC can promulgate laws underneath legislation. They can also do things like issue interpretations. In the absence of a law, we don't have the legislation yet. In the absence of the law, they can issue interpretations. And of course, industry participants are going to rely on those interpretations. If a different law is passed in the future, of course, law is always going to trump regulation, and it will especially trump interpretations by an executive agency. Congress makes the laws. So you could get a different Congress, a Congress of a different composition after midterms, and they could pass some laws that are actually bad for crypto and override anything the SEC or the CFTC says. However, it is really nice for any crypto industry participants to be able to rely on the interpretations of the SEC and the CFTC. It's really hard for anybody to, it'd be hard for the SEC. Let's say after this current White House administration, let's say you get an anti-crypto army SEC again, you get a gangster style SEC again, really hard for the new SEC to turn around and say, you know what? No, we're totally reversing ourselves. After 4 years of you guys living under this interpretation, we're reversing all that. And now it's nothing but enforcement actions for you guys. You guys just get enforcement actions because all those people who are the subjects of those enforcement actions are going to go into court and say, I've been relying on this interpretation, which was issued by the SEC. How can they go after me now? True, the law will always trump, no pun intended, will always trump regulation and certainly, agency interpretations. But this is great for us as an industry to rely on. And it also helps shape the legislation, right? Let's say we do get some legislation this year. Let's say we luck out and we get some legislation, we get something passed before midterms. It's great if they can go to the interpretation. Now we're going to jump over to the interpretation. That was just the release. They can go to what is going to become the most famous page, already has become the most famous page of this entire interpretation, page 14, where they describe digital commodities. It says a digital commodity is a crypto asset that is intrinsically linked to and derives its value from the programmatic operation of a crypto system that is functional, as well as supply and demand dynamics, rather than from the expectation of profits from the essential managerial efforts of others. So we've seen very similar language in the past. The part that makes this page so famous is the rest of this paragraph, specifically the last sentence. A digital commodity does not have intrinsic economic properties or rights, such as generating a passive yield or conveying rights to future income, profits, or assets of a business enterprise or their entity promisor or obligor, but may have certain other rights as discussed below. So a lot of crypto projects, just to address this piece before we move on to the really important part, just to address this, a lot of fucking blockchains on their base layer tokens did all this shit. They're saying, you can't be a digital commodity if you do any of this shit. And a lot of them actually did this kind of shit, and they're hating themselves right now for doing it. You know who didn't do any of that stuff? Cardano, along with a bunch of other blockchains. And we got explicitly enumerated as digital commodities on page 14 of this interpretation. This is literally the best thing that's ever happened from a regulatory sense, from a regulatory perspective, to Cardano. Examples of digital commodities include Aptos, Avalanche, Bitcoin, BCH, Cardano, ADA, Chainlink, Dogecoin, Ether, Hedera, Litecoin, Polkadot, Shiba, Solana, Stellar, Tezos, and XRP. You know how good it is to be on this list? This is so good, guys. So good. You notice Algo, I think Algo is not even in this list up here, but down here in the footnote that applies to that sentence, Algo and Library make it in just in the footnote. For example, based on their characteristics, terms, and functions as of the date of this release, Algo and Library, neither of which underlies such a futures contract, are digital commodities because they are intrinsically linked to and derive their value from the blah, 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 blah. So they didn't even make it into the text. They just made it into the footnote, right? This is kind of like second place, third place, 15th place. They got the bronze medal, but they still made it in the footnote, right? Cardano being in this enumerated list, fantastic. It's going to be really hard now for them to pass legislation that, specifically excludes Cardano. It's going to be difficult for them to have a list that, only talks about Bitcoin and Ethereum. They could still do it. They could still have legislation that only talks about Bitcoin and Ethereum or something. But since the list already exists, it's in existing SEC, CFTC interpretation. Really easy for us to now be in a list like this that makes it into what eventually would be the Clarity Act. So this is one of the best things ever. This could easily have not been in there, right? Why do I think this is in there? You notice we've got like Aptos, but no Sui. Notice Sui. I think you guys told me it's Japanese for water, Sui. So I guess it's Sui. I think you guys told me that last night or the day before. You notice Sui is not even in this list, right? So it's kind of a question mark. Of course, if you're a Sui person right now, you're like, well, Aptos is in there. So surely we're in there. We're just not specifically enumerated, right? We meet all of the definitional points. We're just not enumerated. You can wish that all you want. It's a hell of a lot better to be in the list. If we were not in this list, everybody would be pretty depressed today and questioning why we're not in the list. Polkadot's in there, Cardano's in there. Is it a coincidence that Charles supported the current administration during the campaign? First supporting RFK Jr., then switching to endorsing Trump. Did that have something to do with it? Probably. Probably that had something to do with it. We meet the definition, but the fact we're specifically enumerated, that probably had something to do with it, right? And not just that, but all of Charles's lobbying efforts. He spent a lot of time with a lot of senators and a lot of representatives in DC. He spent a lot of time lobbying in 2024, 2023, maybe. I don't know the timeline. But Charles did a lot of things in DC to make this happen. So thank you, Charles. I have no doubt we would not be on this list if Charles had decided not to engage in that lobbying campaign. So thank you, Charles. So let's see what everybody has to say. Okay. Brown Beardo says it still needs to be finalized in Congress eventually, but this should be a great bridge in the meantime, hopefully enough for us to keep working and building without fear. Yep, absolutely. James Syracuse says there's a new sheriff in town. Absolutely. That applies both to night mode and to Atkins and Selig. In the meantime, elections will absolutely have dire consequences. Absolutely. And that's probably going to happen in November. I'm getting a beer to celebrate. Rock the fuck out. Nice. Nice. Library 2. They were litigated to hell as well, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they were. We covered it on this channel. I wonder if this gives them a vector to appeal the prior SEC. God, I mean, that's a good. I can't remember the disposition of that enforcement action eventually. We covered it on this channel pretty extensively. I can't remember the disposition of that case, that enforcement action, what actually happened. But yeah, it sucks to be them. It sucks to be them after all these years. It's probably quite a moment of victory for them to see their ticker in this list. That's probably a hell of a moment of victory for them. So good for them. Trolltoll says Giga Chad Hosky. Yeah. I mean, he basically, people, I think people probably have been questioning, over the last like several months, like what was all that for? Because for a while, Charles was like full bore on the lobbying. And, I think in a lot of people's heads, they were like, did we actually get anything out of that? And this is it, guys. I think you probably had to do that much lobbying. And I mean, we didn't pay Charles for that, right? I mean, you could argue indirectly Charles and IOG got their allotment at the ICO back in 2017, whatever. But in 2024, 2025, like Charles did not get paid to go do all that shit. He just did it for us, right? He could have just let that play out and we probably would not have been on this list. That was all Charles. That was your boy Charles going to lunches, probably going to dinners, sitting around with senators, telling them how great they are and sneaking in as much as he can about how great Cardano is and how it deserves to be a part of the future of crypto in the US, all that kind of shit. That's your boy Charles right there. He did that for us. I'm sure some people Some people will refuse to give him credit, and they'll say, no, Cardano was going to be on the list regardless. Charles had nothing to do with that. I'm sure we got those people in the Cardano ecosystem right now. But if you ask me, I don't think we're on this list if not for all of Charles's activities. Knight should be grandfathered as a layer of ADA. Yeah, there's no chance. But yeah, I mean the fact that well, actually, I mean Knight is a native token on the Cardano, on the Cardano blockchain. So, this thing says Cardano ADA, but I mean, you can make the same case for Knight, I think, in a lot of ways that you could for any native token on any of these chains. So Knight created a market without selling a single token. Seems like they're fine either way. Yeah, I mean, IOG has been pretty genius from a regulatory perspective all along. And the way they did the Knight airdrop, I mean, we talked about it during the airdrop, all the smart things they did, totally avoiding sanctioned wallet stuff and KYC and all that stuff by making everybody create new wallets. So there would be no chain analysis necessary, to determine, if you have a brand new wallet, you don't have to worry about if there's never been a transaction in that with that wallet. You don't have to worry about, what kind of spider web of transactions lead you to North Korean hacker group Lazarus, right? So they did a lot of genius things. So this is a good point. Knight, IOG made some good decisions with the way Knight was distributed. I'll put it that way. Also, Knight is needed to make dust, so it should be able to get the same classification. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. I'm kind of concerned that it doesn't pass in the Senate, and they use this kind of tactic to get help on the midterms. So I'm also concerned that it won't pass in the Senate. And when you say get help on the midterms, what do you mean? I think the midterms may not go the way of crypto. I think that's very possible. It also said meme coins ain't worth shit. Yeah, we'll talk about the other 3 classifications. So digital commodities are just one of 3 classifications of assets we're going to talk about. I'll not vote red if they don't make ADA a commodity. There you go. I basically won't vote for anybody who's not willing to make ADA a commodity at this point. So I'm with you. Family G7. I'm with you. So we're going to get to those 4 classifications. Chairman Atkins had this to say, though. I like this. This is a very modern governance kind of thing. They show us the guy's face. He's all dressed up for you. He's got on a tie, nice suit, right? His hair's combed, looking good. Sometimes you see politicians, they look like they just came out of a brothel. Paul Atkins, not so much. He's looking non-nefarious here. I like that. This interpretation will provide market participants with a clear understanding of how the commission treats crypto assets under federal securities laws. It also acknowledges what the former administration refused to recognize, that most crypto assets are not themselves securities, and it reflects the reality that investment contracts can come to an end. This effort serves as an important bridge for entrepreneurs and investors as Congress works to advance bipartisan market structure legislation. So, not a whole, I mean, that last part, most crypto assets are not themselves securities. That's the only part that's really important out of all this. Is a word salad to most people. But this is exactly what we've dreamed of for so long in crypto. This is exactly it. So he also gave a nice speech. Nice speech at the blockchain summit, talking about how everybody could find the document I just showed you in their inboxes. It was finally happening today. He actually told a really funny joke. He said the SEC is basically, once again, the Securities and Exchange Commission, not the Securities and Everything Commission, which is a very funny reference to Gensler thinking that the SEC was in charge of regulating everything, when in fact, it's just fucking securities and securities exchanges. Those are the 2 acts. There's 2 acts, 33 Act and the 34 Act. Securities Act and the Securities Exchange Act. That's fucking it. All this securities and everything bullshit, that is not part of the mandate of the SEC. So very nice. The SEC was putting out all kinds of shit yesterday. In addition to providing greater clarity regarding the commission's treatment of crypto assets, today's interpretation complements congressional efforts to codify a comprehensive crypto market structure framework into statute. More details below. The commission issued the interpretation to provide a coherent token taxonomy. That's what we needed. They needed to create categories, silos, and we're hoping ADA falls in that commodity silo. They did that for us. Thank you, Atkins and Selig. So token taxonomy, here's your categories. Digital commodities, yay, we're in there. Digital collectibles, digital tools, stable coins, and digital securities. No one in crypto wants to be in the last one. Unless you're trying to make tokenized securities, you do not want to be in the last one. Address how a non-security crypto asset, which is a crypto asset that itself is not a security, may become subject to, and how it may cease to be subject to an investment contract. So obviously, if you understand how the Howey test works, you can understand that you could turn a crypto asset into a security by making it subject to an investment contract, or you can make it part of an arrangement that is itself creates a security. Basically, clarify the application of federal securities laws to airdrops, protocol mining, protocol staking, and the wrapping of a non-security crypto asset. So we'll get into some of the other stuff in this document. Not today. There's so much. I mean, it's like a 63-page document, 68-page document. So there's a lot in there, and people really haven't dug in and talked about most of it yet, but we're going to get there. Jake Chervinsky, famous crypto lawyer. I'm just going to call him famous crypto lawyer, even though by famous, I only mean to people in crypto who think about policy. So he even put the date. This was so important. He put the date on it, on his post. CFTC issued a no action letter saying non-custodial wallet providers aren't intermediaries. We needed that. Thank you, CFTC. Thank God. Thank God. SEC issued a rule clarifying, finally, how the Howey test applies to crypto. Chair Atkins announced plans for Reg Crypto, a safe harbor for token issuers. Surreal. Certainly surreal. This is what we've wanted all along. Yo, Gensler, you could have done this, and we would have loved your ass. You would not have been the villain that you became. You were not like Batman becoming a villain, for the good of everyone. You were just a villain for the good of the anti-crypto army. You could have been this. You could have been this, Gensler. You know it. We know it. Now you just, live the rest of your life in infamy. No one in crypto will invite you to any cool parties. So on to a little crypto news. You guys might find this entertaining. So this is Harmonic. Harmonic, we've covered a bit how they are developing Gravity. Gravity is going to be a platform without batchers. It's going to be a DeFi platform without batchers, a DEX without batchers. So, of course, they have a vested interest in letting you know how bullshit the batcher fees have been in Cardano. How much did you spend on batcher fees? Claude just one-shotted this app. So he's got an app for you to help you determine how much you've spent on batcher fees. How much ADA did you waste on batcher fees? Enter your address or connect your wallet. This is kind of cool. Claude one-shotted this. So he just gave the prompt to Claude and Claude created it. Here's someone. Dear Lord, they say. The app told them they wasted almost 10,000 ADA on batcher fees, which doesn't seem like a lot now, but you got to ask yourself, how close to $3 were we when most of this was spent? Here's another one, over 5,000 ADA in batcher fees. Here's another one, 1,000 ADA in batcher suite fees. Apparently it breaks it down by platform. Those platforms are not loving this. Those other platforms with the batchers are not loving this. It's not really their fault, right? It's like there was no approach. There was no extant approach at the time these DEXs were created. There was no extant approach that didn't involve batchers. I covered it heavily on this channel. Everybody kind of discovered together we were going to have batchers. Everybody was sad about it. It was just something we had to accept. So what Gravity seems to be proposing right now, and I have no idea what they're doing or how they're doing it, but Gravity seems to be proposing that their DEX will not have batchers, which is pretty awesome if they can pull it off. So we'll see if they can actually pull it off. Okay. Let's go back to the comments here. All not vote. Okay. No, we already covered that one. Okay. Nope. Okay. We're good on the comments. We've covered all the comments. Okay. On to more news items here. So this is happening, and it's pretty non-controversial, I think. The Cardano Foundation, supported by IOG, is requesting community approval to become the new managing entity of Project Catalyst. This is good. This is good. I think when this news broke that maybe the CF was going to take over operation of Catalyst, I think everybody was like, I'm good with that. That's okay. I haven't seen too many people say they hate this. I think everybody's kind of okay with this, but it's good. They're putting it before a vote of the community to make sure they have the community's approval on this. So thank you for that, CF. Good move. Brown Beardo says, yikes, the hodler with their head in the sand wins again, apparently. Yeah. I mean, hodling in crypto, God, famously, I'll never forget the founder of Litecoin. He dropped this quote way back in the day. I talked about his famously selling at the top, telling everybody he was going to sell, then selling all of his Litecoin at the top, and then going on to, I believe he then took like an executive position at Coinbase for a while and just built out more crypto shit at Coinbase. But legend. But one of the things he said that really, really stuck with me all these years was that, and God, I don't know when he said this. It was probably like I probably first heard this in like, I want to say like 2015. I could be wrong. It's been a decade now, but he said something like, everybody in crypto has the same regrets. They wish they would have bought more, and they wish they would have bought earlier. So you got to remember, I'm talking about 2015. This is before the ICO craze. He probably would have caveated that after the ICO craze, because now we have a lot of bullshit assets. So there are a lot of assets I'm sure many of us wish we had bought less of and never, right? But with the good assets, and in 2015, we didn't have that much. You know, we had Bitcoin and we had Ethereum, and Litecoin was around, and a bunch of other assets, and they were all kind of going up. So it was kind of true. Everybody who was in crypto just basically wished they bought more earlier. It was all true then. So now you can make some pretty big mistakes and squander, your entire life savings if you want to in crypto. But with the quality assets, it has seemed to match what Brown Beardo was saying. Hodling has turned out to be a pretty good strategy. The people who are trading a lot, you hear stories. And when I say that, I am strongly implying fiction. You hear fictional stories about people trading and doing so well, making all this money. And yet the people who end up at the end of the day with verifiably doing very well in crypto, many, many, many of them tell you a story that just involves hodling and not trading all the time and losing all these fees to DeFi platforms, and in this case, batchers. That kind of matches the reality that I've seen over the years in crypto. So more interesting news. SEC approves NASDAQ rule to allow tokenized stocks and securities trading. That's going to get wild, right? Tokenized stocks, tokenized securities. This is definitely that final category that nobody in crypto proper wants to be in. But all of the securities that are obviously already securities, they're more than happy to be tokenized. And I think everybody knows, including the executives on Wall Street, all the TradFi institutions, that crypto is just a more efficient way to do that. We've seen that quote recently from, who was it? Larry Fink, somebody like that everything in the securities world was going to get tokenized because it's just a more efficient way to do everything they do, which I think is very true. Another one, PayPal officially enables stablecoin access in 70 countries. So this meme, I think, kind of sums up what a lot of us in crypto think about that. Who even uses PayPal stablecoins? Definitely, that's sort of the expression a lot of us probably have in our face. The X fans are thinking like this: X money is still coming for PayPal. But, this just shows you even the most TradFi of fintech platforms who've kind of begrudgingly been drugged into the crypto world now understand that stable coins are going to be the thing. So, the Federal Reserve, well, we got all this good news on the crypto front. The Federal Reserve today did exactly what you expect. I didn't even watch Powell's speech because everybody knew they were just going to leave rates unchanged. So there you go. It was very obvious what was going to happen there. Something surprising did happen on the macro front. So this came out on the 17th at around noon was when this post came out. But just in, U.S. Treasury just bought back 15 billion of its own debt, the largest U.S. Treasury buyback in history. Wednesday was a good time for this to go down. Not a lot of people noticed, but think about that. The largest U.S. Treasury buyback in history. So what are they doing there? They are propping up prices. So what's going on here? I'm a little disheartened by this. I have a feeling I'm not going to be able to watch this without experiencing an emotion we call rage. So it looks like Netflix is making a goddamn series about Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline Ellison, and they're being played by these two. This is your new Sam Bankman-Fried. This is Caroline. Obviously, I think somebody pointed it out down below here. Here you go. Oh, and this is CZ. The funniest one. This guy is going to be CZ. So somebody pointed out down here, I think somebody said, not ugly enough. This is the problem. They're kind of glamorizing these two. I'm okay with CZ. I'm okay with this guy playing CZ. I think CZ deserves, an aesthetically pleasing actor. These two, they should have gotten, it would have been more fitting if they got on-screen talent that kind of fit the aesthetic benchmarks hit by these two. I think that would have made it probably more interesting. These two, it's just, they're gonna glamorize it a little bit. It's called The Altruists. If you remember what happened, what these guys were up to in terms of the rhetoric they were putting out, you understand why it's called The Altruists. But I have a feeling I'm going to watch this thing and just be pissed the whole time. Unless they paint them as like these super dark, evil characters, then it might be okay. But I have a feeling they're just going to glamorize the whole thing. Like, oh, they got in too deep. They accidentally made some decisions they shouldn't have. I don't think that's what all of us in crypto think actually happened. Puckyhawk says, I just accumulate. Selling is not in my crypto vocabulary yet. Good for you. Granted, I have some dumb coins. Laugh out loud. Not all my decisions were intelligent. Same here. I think we'd all tell a similar story. I've definitely got a couple ledgers, full of some things I wish I never bought. Luckily, I didn't buy very much. It was always a tiny sliver of my portfolio, but it stings. Just losing stings, right? Even if it's a very small sliver of your portfolio, just losing so hard hurts. So I think we've all got those. Little UFO news, guys. Little UFO news. A tantalizing. So, you guys probably saw. I reposted the news that the White House registered alien.gov and aliens.gov, and immediately the naysayers were saying exactly what you expect. Oh, this is about illegal aliens, right? But there's a lot of hints that that's not the case. Here, Ross Coulthard, who's one of the, I guess we can call him preeminent UAP report journalists. Some people call him a professional Australian, which is pretty funny because he's definitely that as well to a US audience. He says, a tantalizing hint that the new alien.gov domain registered by the president's executive staff might indeed relate to aliens, non-human intelligence, not just non-citizens. Shortly after the initial publication of this article, White House spokeswoman Anna Kelly told Defense Scoop in an emailed response to those questions to stay tuned, and then she actually used the alien emoji. So this is a person who is a White House spokeswoman. She actually used the alien emoji in response to a question, an emailed question about that registration. So I don't know that she would have done that if this was about undocumented immigrants. Her statement included the same alien emoji that Hegseth used on social media when he reposted Trump's promise last month to publish previously undisclosed records about extraterrestrials and unidentified craft. So I showed Hegseth's tweet on this channel. I think it's a mistake at this point to start talking about extraterrestrials because we don't know. If you believe there are aliens, non-human intelligence, you don't have to believe that they're not from this planet, because I think a lot of people, maybe most people who follow the UAP space closely, don't actually assume they're from another planet, right? A lot of people in the UAP space now believe that they've probably been here on Earth as long or longer than humans have. A lot of people believe they've been with us the whole time. And you'll notice that government officials use this to deflect questions a lot. They say things like, Elon does it too, we don't have any evidence of extraterrestrials. They say that instead of saying, we don't have any evidence that we're not alone. We don't have any evidence that there's no NHI. Because if they live here on Earth and they've been here for as long as we have, they're not really extraterrestrials, are they? So here's another one. Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett says that NASA is lying when they say they have nothing on UFOs. He's the congressman from Tennessee. NASA saying, we don't have anything. We don't study this. He says, I've been in meetings with them where they've told me they studied it and they have stuff that's classified that they can't share with the public. I think that's probably right. Eric Burleson, who is another congressman kind of in the UAP caucus, he's been saying some things to the contrary recently on the Weaponized podcast. He said something to the contrary, kind of implying that he thinks that maybe NASA doesn't have anything, that the intelligence community and the DoD just wouldn't share anything with NASA for a really interesting reason. He says that because NASA works with other governments, right? We have things like the International Space Station. It's international, so they work with other governments. So he was claiming that the IC doesn't trust NASA. Technically, during the Trump administration, they declared NASA to be a part of the IC, though. So I would also assume that's not for no reason. So just some interesting little tidbits there. People who like and are interested in the UAP stuff probably know about this movie that has been coming out for a long time. So this is the big movie that everybody says is going to convince us that Bob Lazar's story is true once and for all. This thing is coming out on April 3rd on Amazon. So I don't know too much about this. I know they've done a lot of like digital recreation of the lab at S4 that Bob Lazar says he worked at. And they spent a lot of time with him trying to get it exactly right so they can show you exactly what Bob Lazar says he remembers about this place. But a lot of people have been saying that this documentary is going to convince everybody that Bob Lazar's story is really true. Okay, Brown Beardo says, not nearly ugly enough. Send in Weta to make the prosthetics to them look like Gothmog. See, this is what I would like. Oh, yeah, Firefly is going to be in an animated series with the entire original cast, except the dead people. Oh, animated? Damn. I mean, I guess it depends on what kind of animation are we talking about. Is it like the animated Witcher installments on Netflix? I would watch those. If it's cool like that, I would watch that. I'd be okay if they did a live action one, with Nathan Fillion and all those guys. If they did a live action one, even though they're way older now, I would definitely watch the live action. Maybe this is just a test. Maybe they'll do an animated one and it'll do so well that they'll do something live action. That'd be great. If they just do like even another 2-hour movie, and throw that on Netflix, I think that'd be great. Well, it should be good. As an animator, I approve. Okay. Hey, I'll take your word for it. If it's cool, if the animation is cool, I will watch it. They have an interview on YouTube that explains it. Okay. Okay. Good to know. Thank you for that info. That's really good to know. So one final thing, and I mainly included this for the meme hours ago. So this was yesterday at a little before 5 p.m. Hours ago, U.S. forces successfully employed multiple 5,000-pound deep penetrator munitions on hardened Iranian missile sites along Iran's coastline near the Strait of Hormuz. The Iranian anti-ship cruise missiles in these sites posed a risk to international shipping in the strait. So you can see there's like kind of over the last week or so, there's definitely a focus on the shipping issue because, as we discussed on this channel, the White House has got to be concerned about gas prices rising. And in that other part of the world that where I have a lot of there's a lot of connectivity to me from this other part of the world. Um, Already, I'm getting reports from people close to me that they have to travel like long distances to get fuel, and a lot of normal gas stations are just out of fuel. They go to the gas station to get gas, no gas. So already they're feeling the impacts of this. And of course, we get the JD Vance meme. His head is sticking out of the cockpit of a B-2 Spirit bomber saying, "You didn't say thank you," which he famously said to the leader of Ukraine at the White House visit. That was I was very surprised. I was very surprised when that went down when that went down at the White House, but this meme is I got to say this is one of the best memes I've seen since the beginning of this Iran conflict. The fat JD Vance with the permed hair, "You didn't say thank you." His head is the entire cockpit of the B-2 Spirit bomber. um Okay, Brown Beardo likes the animation. He says animation is fine by me. They're getting old. Tons of studios could handle the subject well. Who's doing the new Firefly? The animation crew is headed by the creator of Agent Carter and the guy that did Arrow and Flash, and both were on the OG crew for Firefly. Oh, that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. Tara Butters and Mark Guggenheim. Okay. Okay, you guys have got me interested enough. I will definitely watch the YouTube interview to find out. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. Um, the world isn't ready for the first meme president. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of made it. I've kind of expressed my hopes that somehow the candidate is Marco Rubio instead of JD Vance in this next election. I think we've all kind of been led to believe it's going to be JD Vance and Marco Rubio in the VP spot. 'Cause it's kind of awkward because they're friends. They seem to be close friends, or at least they portray themselves as close friends. So if it flip flops and it's Marco, it's like, what does JD do? Does he become the vice president for a different president and do another? From Marco's perspective, I'm sure optimistically it'd be JD does another 8 years, so he's like vice president for 12 years. Like, I don't know about that part. Is that even allowed? Do we have term limits that would prevent that on the VP slot? I don't even know. But this meme has definitely been making the rounds. That's like obviously very left right partisan, but also kind of funny. Anyways, I think that is all of the news. Before we jump off, does anybody hit me now if you have any questions about night mode, anything I can help with? I'm very grateful if anyone is going on the site and looking around, playing around, with some of the flows. I'm very, very grateful for you doing that. If anybody's doing that, so please do it. If anybody needs any help, getting their wallet into midnight pre-prod mode. There's one thing I missed on that thread. I don't know if I said it earlier, but when I showed you this thread, you've got to be in a remote. I should have put another red arrow here to tell people to make sure they're in remote mode. So if you're in local, I think I said it earlier, but if you're in local, you have to have your own local proof server. So you want to be in remote. But if anybody needs any help on any of this, definitely feel free to hit me up through any channel you wish. I'm very grateful for anybody who's visiting the site and checking it out. And hopefully soon I'll be able to do the vibe coding work to get this baby running, not on mocks, but on the actual smart contract, which is already deployed. The interview is 42 minutes long. Total reveal. Ooh, I like it. I like it. Okay. Okay. You've talked me into it, Pucky Hawk. You've talked me into it. Thanks for letting me know, because I'm very interested. But anyways, I think that is all of the news from today. So I hope everybody is having a great week. I hope you're looking forward to a good rest of the week and even a good weekend. And I will talk to you soon.